Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's live streaming, guys. I appreciate you all, whether you're watching us on YouTube or on Rumble. Today, I'm going to start this stream and the conversation with you with a special and personal story. In 2013, I was working in Beirut. And when Obama was indicating that he's going to bomb Syria, I rushed to Damascus. I wanted to participate in some events that the title back then was "Over Our Dead Bodies." So you can only destroy Syria over our dead bodies. And in 2013, in August, September, I first met Hala Jaber. And she is a professional journalist, senior correspondent, and I was amazed by her knowledge and professionalism. And later, we also met on Mount Qasiyun when this event was going on and Hala was covering there. And back then, I checked in her mobile and she was using an app. This was odd to me because this app looks strange to me. And it was Twitter. In 2013, she was reporting on the Syrian war on Twitter when it wasn't fashionable for people to use Twitter. Now everybody is on X or on Twitter, but Hala, who is a 6-time award-winning journalist, author of books on Hezbollah and Iraq, and a former Sunday Times senior foreign correspondent, is joining me today for the first time on Syriana Analysis. What a pleasure and honor to have you, Hala.
It's lovely to see you again, and I know we've met since then. And yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure. Time flies, and unfortunately, we are still living in the middle of crisis. It is just moving from one geography to another. You have witnessed, you were mature or older enough to remember Iraq war. I was still a little kiddo back then. You lived the second Intifada, 2006 Lebanon war, 2008 the slaughterhouse in Gaza again. And now we are facing all the time this escalation in the region. And this week, 2 days ago, a day ago, the Lebanese group Hezbollah announced that they started the first stage of retaliation against Israel, firing hundreds of rockets, missiles, and drones, hitting Israeli sensitive targets. Let's start this conversation together on the nature of the attack from the Hezbollah side and what sites they hit in Israel.
So it's very important to explain that this response was in retaliation for an assassination in the heart of Beirut. Not just the fact that they assassinated the senior leader, but they did so in Beirut itself, which is the capital. So as a result, as Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, who is the leader of Hezbollah, yesterday explained, when they were studying what to target, they wanted something that would be within the same caliber, or at least at the same level of the commander that was assassinated. So the geography they wanted similar. So if Israel had flown all the way to Beirut to assassinate him, that's about 100 point something kilometers. So they wanted a similar thing within Israel itself. So what was important yesterday was the fact that this was the first time, if you want, in all the wars between Hezbollah and Lebanon, that Hezbollah actually, between Hezbollah and Israel, that Hezbollah actually carries out an attack in the heart of Israel itself. And the attack was against, they selected 2 sites. These 2 sites, one was the primary site and one was, if you want, Plan B site, because both of them represented the Air Force, the intelligence, the military, the espionage, and where assassinations are planned. So they wanted to to carry out the response against these 2 as an equivalent to the person that was killed. They obviously, the story then, the Israelis have been denying that any such thing happened or that they did not get to the target. But we'll come to that in a minute. Irrespective of that, it's very important also to point out that when they were planning these attacks, unlike Israel, Hezbollah was always careful and has proved to have been so over the last 11 months of not targeting civilians. So he specifically said that, and that's what we've seen, that they wanted to make sure that whatever target they hit would have no civilian casualties and would not be a civilian target, and neither would they target infrastructure. In comparison, we see Israel, for example, be it in Gaza or in South Lebanon here, have actually been targeting, killing both civilians and hitting infrastructures.
Hala, what stops? I'm not calling for, of course, hitting civilian targets in occupied Palestine or in the settlements or in Israeli cities, but what stops Hezbollah, beside morality, to hit civilian targets? Because, as you mentioned, the Israeli side has been targeting civilian cars, infrastructure, and also houses in southern Lebanon and all the way to the suburbs of Beirut. In the calculation of Hezbollah, what stops them from hitting these civilian targets?
Well, there are several factors. Obviously, there's what you just said, morality, but there's also even in a war, even with your enemy, there's an ethic. There's a war ethic, and then most importantly, there's a religious part of it. You know, religiously, you're not allowed. You're prohibited, even in a war situation. You should not kill a woman, man, child, not even cut down a tree or even slaughter an animal for the hell of it, you know, like kill a dog, for example. So all these factors are part of their ideology, yeah? But furthermore is because this is not a war against civilians, even though the Israelis have made it to be so in Gaza. This has always been a war against the military and the politicians that have, you know, that are wreaking havoc. But furthermore, if you were to target civilians in Israel, and Hezbollah puts a very high value on its own civilians as well, given Israel's history and its criminality and its lack of ethics, there's, you know, Israel will immediately, and we've seen this happen in 2006 in Lebanon and in each and every other war, whether it was in Lebanon or Gaza, Israel has no qualms of just slaughtering tens of thousands of people to get to the point that it wants. But for Hezbollah in particular, it's an ideological one and a religious one. And therefore, you know, in a war, there's no, sometimes it's, you know, it's not possible not to have a civilian killed. And in the last 10, 11 months, there has been a few Israeli civilians killed, but very few, probably a handful. These were not intended. These probably ended up being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they got killed. Now, you know, they will talk about this, the 12 children in Syria, but that's another story. We're not going to that.
Yes.
But generally speaking, there is no intention of Hezbollah, and they always fight the better war. They show that they are just doing this militarily because this is between them and the Israeli military, not between them and the Israeli people as such.
I think the vast majority of Americans and also many people in the West, in European countries, for example, because there is an intentional, let's say, reporting trying to tell the people that Hezbollah is like Hamas, Hamas is like ISIS, so everyone is like ISIS, because we have seen the footage coming from Syria, Iraq, and how the ISIS terrorists were decapitating civilians, women, children, innocent people, soldiers, everyone, basically, right? And very few people also know that Hezbollah joined the fight against ISIS, against al-Nusra Front, which were supported and funded by the allies of the United States, and some of which were by the United States itself. I think those facts have to be said. You don't have to agree with Hezbollah. You can completely despise their what they stand for, but those are the facts that we have to tell to the people when we discuss these cases. We have something very.
I mean, we have to clarify. There is, you know, those who say, who even try and you know, compare Hezbollah or Hamas with ISIS. These people know that this is actually a fallacy. This is wrong. This is a lie, a blatant lie. But they do so to dehumanize them and to create this image of monstrosity, right? And to deny them basically the fact that, you know, these are, to deny them what they are, resisting groups fighting for their liberation or to support another group fighting for its liberation. So it's basically to basically remove every positive element and to showcase them as bad as ISIS. As you know, I've covered ISIS from its inception to whenever, and I can assure you, having also covered these groups and followed on their evolution over the years and their growth, it's actually it's not just arrogant, it's actually a serious lie, and it's actually an affront and ignorance and arrogance to even compare them to ISIS.
I agree. Hala, this retaliation from the Hezbollah side intended on reestablishing deterrence, basically, and also expanding the rules of engagement with Israel. It's always teeth for a tat, and it's like a snowball. We can see that it is crumbling since October 7, and every day this is expanding. The rules of engagement changes every day. There are new calculations from both sides. But in this particular case, after the phase 1 of this response to the assassination of Fuad Shukr, do you think that the retaliation was successful, relatively successful, or it was a failure? Was Hezbollah was successful in achieving the deterrence by this attack, or not yet?
Oh, no, I think a deterrence has been achieved, at least for the time being. I mean, with Israel, every time you achieve a deterrence, there's something new eventually that happens, and they will try something else. Look, let's not forget, let's go back again. Israel literally flew into sovereign country, breached the sovereignty of Lebanon, breached the security of its capital, and carried out an assassination. All of these are against international laws anyway, not just assassinating, even breaching the sovereignty, even flying, even carrying out, what do you call it when they do this, piercing the sound barriers.
Yes.
So they are continuously doing this on a daily basis. And with Israel, if there's anything, precedent has shown, history has shown, if you allow it an inch, it will take a mile. If you do not respond in kind, if you do not show Israel that you are capable of responding, and next time you will get it, then they will come next time and they will assassinate another and another and another. Or they will expand it into, okay, today we assassinated, tomorrow we'll bring down this building, for example, or we'll take out a neighborhood. So there is no stopping this regime, this criminal regime of Israel. So yes, yesterday what we saw, like I said, is the first time that Hezbollah actually goes into the depth of Israel, 110 kilometers away from the Lebanese border, on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, which is literally like the outskirts of what we call as the outskirts of the southern suburbs of Beirut. And that was where the target is. The message, irrespective of whether we get to that, obviously, but irrespective whether the target was or wasn't, it happened or didn't happen, the fact of the matter is they were also sending a message that we are capable of reaching Tel Aviv. There's nothing stopping us. And they did so with the most basic weapons. They didn't even use the most serious of what they have in their tunnels or their ballistic or their advanced missiles or their advanced drones, nothing. They used, and again, I'm sure you'll come to that, they used very, very, very basic weapons. But the message was Tel Aviv is within our reach. Just because we haven't done it before is not to say that we can't do it. So the next time you want to target Beirut, be very sure that we will target Tel Aviv. And that was the message. Has this deterrence worked? I think for now, Israel, it has, because before this, Israel was, hallowing around and screaming and shouting and saying, if they do this, we are going to launch war on Lebanon. We're going to turn it to the Stone Age. We're going to destroy it. They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't that. Within literally less than an hour after Hezbollah did its attack, all Israeli officials, or at least the main line from Israel, came out to say, we do not want an open war with Lebanon. So that is the message that, yes, that deterrence worked. They got the message. There are military messages going on between the sides. As you know, in any military understand each other. They send messages via attacks, via weapons, via plans, via whatever. And they got that message. And I don't think Israel would want to see a proper attack, and I mean a serious proper attack, in the midst of Tel Aviv. And this is not far, this is not something that Hezbollah cannot do. It can do very easily. But so far, it's been disciplined in what it's doing.
Yeah, but this discipline, Hala, and I'm going to show you a tweet by one of the critics of Hezbollah, famous activist, journalist. His name is Nadim Qutaish. Those who don't know him, he's Lebanese. He works in the Emirates, I think with a Saudi-funded TV channel and Emirati-funded TV channel nowadays. And the critics, let's say, in general, they also posting criticism for Hezbollah, and of course ill-intentioned, but despite that, they say the true measure of Hezbollah's retaliation for Shukur's killing isn't just vengeance, it's deterrence. If Israel had the chance to strike Nasrallah tomorrow knowing the retaliation would be like today's, they would do it in a heartbeat. That makes this response a significant failure. This question has twofold question. First, two-part. First is, what do you think about what he said? Because it looks like, from their perspective, that this was a shy response against Israel, and it will not deter them from assassinating someone like Nasrallah, because Fuad Shukr was a very senior military commander in Hezbollah to begin with. And secondly, I have followed the coverage, let's say, from the Gulf Arab TV channels and outlets, and they don't pretend to be neutral in this case. Like, they are really trying to shift on the side of Israel. It's very strange to me, at least in this context of the entire Arab world is supportive of Palestine, whereas Saudi Emirati channels are 24/7 trying to undermine groups like Lebanese groups and Palestinian groups fighting against the Israeli occupation forces.
Okay. I mean, the person you mentioned who was criticizing, I mean, if I'm going to take any criticism seriously, it will not come from him, to be honest. I mean, this guy is known for his criticism of Israel. He is someone, even if tomorrow Hezbollah was to liberate, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to throw the most outrageous thing. Even if tomorrow Hezbollah was to liberate Jerusalem itself, this person will come out and find something to criticize. So you should ask him whether he took permission from his wife to do this tweet or not, or to criticize, because that's the general joke about him. So for me, he is the last person. He survives on controversy. He's very much against his own people. He's a traitor, and as far as I'm concerned. And yes, a lot of other people have criticized. So let's discuss the criticism. There's been a build-up. It's snowballed over the last few weeks of what people anticipated Hezbollah would do. And I think people started imagining all sorts of things because they showed the tunnels, because they showed what they have, because Sayyid Nasrallah's speeches have always been, ferocious and forceful. We can do, we will do, or. You have people, ordinary people, that have no military know-how, no military expertise, okay, that are keyboard warriors, right? They're passionate and they're emotional. And they thought that, yes, we expect him to fire 1,000 rockets or 1,000 missiles or 500. He should flatten an entire neighborhood, for example. And they imagined a response, and then their balloons got burst because they missed something. Strategy and tactics are different things. So when you're strategizing, you also have to you have to take into consideration a lot of elements. It's not just about now, what you do now. It's not about bringing down this one building now, but what does it mean to bring down this one building? How will it impact you? Who pays the price later? Will it alleviate? Will it end the war in Gaza? Will it stop the Israelis from doing further damage? Will it stop the Israelis from coming to Lebanon and killing 100,000 tomorrow, for example? These are all factors that the people that are planning this war are actually having to take into consideration. Not people like me and you and everybody who sit here and get very, yes, we react, and we have every right to, because what everyone is witnessing on our TV screens every day is literally heartbreaking. And when we see that the entire world is turning a blind eye, we get quite enraged and passionate, and we're laying all our hopes on these factions, because remember, these are not state actors either. Hezbollah is not a state actor. Hezbollah is a resistant. Hezbollah is a resistant that is watching as well, not just Israel. If it's between Hezbollah and Israel, that's another story. But when you have Israel that is being supported by the entire world, by NATO, you have the fleet of the US literally around Lebanon and the region and the Middle East. I can't tell you how many satellites are flying above us. Our GPSs are all jammed. You can't order an Uber without it sending you to Jordan or to the airport, okay? The drones that are flying over Lebanon on a daily basis, just spying, okay? So you're not fighting Israel on its own. You're fighting an entity that is being supported by the entire world. So you're minute in comparison, and yet people are putting such expectations of you, like you're Superman, but you're not Superman. Hezbollah is not Superman. Hezbollah is courageous. It's resistance. It will stand up to anyone. It will fight. It will fight to defend its own people, and it's fighting to defend the Palestinians in as much as it can. But to expect miracles without knowing all the elements, all the facts, all the factors, all the assessments, all the planning, is actually quite naive and unfair. Because bottom line is, there's blood being shed in the south of Lebanon, and there's nearly 500 Hezbollah fighters that have been martyred since the beginning of this. There are thousands of houses on the front line that have been destroyed. And we went through 2006 and we saw what Israel's machinery can do. So imagine if the Americans got involved and the West got involved, and just to satisfy keyboard warrior or this person critique that sits in the UAE and takes, or Saudi, and takes Saudi money or Saudi checks in order for him to spew such criticism, to create controversy, to make tweets that are controversial, to get clickbaits, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So I'm sorry, there is more to it than that. And you know, there's a country involved, there's a country stake involved, there is Gaza involved. Listen, Kevork, if this would end Gaza tomorrow, do you think they wouldn't have done it? Even if it cost 50,000. If the answer was definite, it would finish attacks on Gaza. They would have done it. They wouldn't have dragged it for 10, 11 months. But Gaza continues to happen because of one power only, because it's being financed, it's being weaponized, it's being armed, it's being supported in every which way by the US and the Western nations. These countries that have continuously slammed sanctions on other countries for smaller things, you know, minute things, have not even taken action against Israel or slammed one sanction or stopped the arms. I mean, today we read that this was the 500th aircraft loaded with weapons and ammunition that landed in Israel, and the 107 ships since 10 months ago, right? And over 50 tons of weapons have been handed to Israel. To do what? And this is what people, you know, when you put these things together and then you're looking at who's fighting what and who's supporting Israel, how can anyone then decide whether Hezbollah has done enough? How can anyone have the right to say Hezbollah is not doing enough when it's about one of the only few, as well as the other axes, that are trying to help? And they never said, right from the beginning, they called it Jabhat al-Isnad, support.
Yes.
They didn't say, you know, this was an open war. They didn't say, we're going to stop it. They said we're going to alleviate as much as we can in order, because if they haven't been doing what they've been doing, as bad as you think Gaza is, it would have been worse as well. So it's very easy for people to type things and just throw them and make accusations and get angry. And I think everyone should take a step back after this and just it doesn't help, basically.
Yes.
It doesn't
Hala,
help.
I'm going to mention a few things. The ground that you're standing on is coming from a very realist, a very reasonable approach, and this type of thinking is needed among decision makers, and this is what we see in Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and other countries in the region, and they are really trying to curb this type of war. I'm going to give you my analysis of what happened, and please feel free to disagree with me, because I think that deterrence is relatively achieved, but there is going to be again another escalation from the Israeli side. What I basically wrote here, some notes in front of me before this live streaming, that the initial retaliation of Hezbollah to the assassination of its senior military commander in Beirut against the military security and cybersecurity units in Israel indicates that the Lebanese group attempted to restore deterrence without triggering an all-out war. And many people are asking why Hezbollah is not interested in an open war here with Israel. And I would say because Hezbollah is fighting an uneven war with an army that receives direct support from the US, the UK, Germany, and many other powerful countries around the world, including regional countries, some of which are from Arabic countries. Therefore, it's not required from Hezbollah to win by a knockout blow. Rather, they are trying to achieve a long-term victory against Israel through
War of
5 means.
attrition.
Exactly. So the first one is not to be defeated, basically, in an unequal war. This is the first, the survival in this. Secondly, manage the war of attrition to drain the economic and financial and also military capabilities of Israel. The third is to continue reverse migration and displacement from northern occupied Palestine. Many people see that it's unsafe, so they go to other parts of Palestine, and then some of them are migrating back to where they came from. Fourth is to suffocate the economy and destroy the climate of investment in Israel. It's no longer fertile ground for investment. And finally, to continue destroying Israel's image in the international public eye. And we can see that every day, increasing number of people joining the anti-Israel, let's say, camp. And these people aren't anti-Semites. They have only heard about what's happening in Palestine, some of them after October 7. And they educated themselves, and they found themselves on the side of Palestine here. So Israel knows this, that this is a war of attrition and time is not playing on the Israeli side, and hence comes the danger of escalation. And from my perspective, when I want to foresee 20, 30 years from now, and I can see that we are going into a very difficult shift in the international system, let's say from a unipolar into some sort of multipolar world, in this type of scenario, Israel sees its presence in the region threatened when the United States is no longer the absolute hegemon. Therefore, Israel is interested in an escalation and a bigger war that the United States get involved and reshapes the balance of power in the region in favor of the United States. Hence, I see that eventually, even if Hezbollah acts rationally, there is an interest in escalation from the Israeli side in the region. And with the type of politicians we see in Israel, I wouldn't rule out that they would assassinate another senior politician in Iran this time, or even in Lebanon. They need this war, in a bid to reshuffle the realities in the region. What's your take on that? Do you see that Israel is interested in escalation, or it will be deterred?
Oh no, there's no doubt it is. When Israel carried out the assassination here, when it carried out the assassination of Hani in Tehran, it knew exactly what it was doing. It wasn't so much because these two people, were posing an immediate threat. They've been around forever. I mean, at least let's talk about Hani. He wasn't a military man. He was a politician. He's been traveling all over the region. He's based in Qatar. You know, they could have got him in Turkey. They could have got him in Qatar. They could have gone to anywhere. But why go and get him in Iran? What was the purpose of that? It's because they want to drag Iran into this. What was the purpose of that? Because they want an Iranian retaliation. They want Iran to respond. They want, look, Netanyahu, for him, this war has to continue, has to drag out. The longer this war goes, the safer he is. He's got internal problem. There's legal issues going on with him. There's courts going after him. There's a million and one thing coming for him. So while this war continues, he continues to lead, and he is continuing to survive. This war for him is survival, right? So for him also to want, basically, if he, look, he is facing a huge failure. It's 10 months, 11 months, it's nearly a year next month, 11 months since October 7. And they sailed in, as they always do, with their typical arrogance, right? That, you know, they will wipe them out in a week. We finish off with Hamas, and you know, everything will be under control. And 10 months later, and we have these two main goals that we want to achieve. 10 months later, nearly 11 months now, they haven't achieved the main goals, the declared goals. What they've done is they've achieved a lot. They have destroyed an entire city. They have killed over 45,000 people. These are also the conservative numbers, right? They have killed nearly 20,000 children. They have carried out every war crime in the book. They have carried out a genocide, which they hate for anyone to refer to. And they still haven't achieved anything. So they want the US to come in and help them. And the main threats at the moment are Hezbollah and Iran. So they carried out assassinations in Iran and in Lebanon in order to drag these parties. Now, the problem with them is also they assume that everyone else is stupid, that they're the only smart people around, that you know, leaders in these countries do not think. I mean, they don't know that Iran, for example, is a chess player, and therefore it takes time before it decides. And you know, these are hand carpet makers. You know, each carpet takes years and years and years of threading and doing. So everything is about patience, not reactionary like they are. And they will not drag them into war. Now, they will try. And by the sounds of things, at least for the time being, we've just bought time, maybe, at least for the time being, for the next few months, because there's American elections coming up. No one wants a regional war. The US doesn't seem to want it. The Iranians don't want it. The region doesn't want it. Lebanon doesn't want it. The one man that wants it is Netanyahu. So he will push the button, yes. He will try and provoke. He will try and provoke even more. But it depends how far he goes, and it's up to the parties concerned to decide. For the time being, there has been a deterrence, yes, and there has been time bought. If you said at some point, if he had the chance to assassinate Nasrallah, would he? Probably, and Nasrallah knows this, and maybe they haven't because they don't want to, and maybe they haven't because they don't know where he is. Whichever way, yeah, no, nothing. You can never put anything past it. Okay, this is a state. This is an entity. This is an apartheid entity, an artificial state that was planted in this region to continue to cause havoc and mayhem. If you look at the history, aside from 2 times, because of the Palestinian issue, when after the Nakba, Arab states actually waged war against Israel for a particular purpose. But since then, it is Israel that has continuously and frequently and repeatedly, it is Israel that has provoked war amongst its neighbor. It is the bully of the neighborhood. And it's been placed here to be the bully of the neighborhood. And that's what it is. And the leaders of Israel, like Netanyahu, act like bullies. That's what bullies in playgrounds and schools do. And he's the same thing.
He's worse than a
He
bully,
used,
actually.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm being
this man
gentle
is a
maybe, but
psychopath, right?
no,
He's a
he is a
psychopath.
psychopath. And the problem is he's uncontrollable. And the
Hmm.
problem is he's unhinged. And the problem is the more the West supports him, the more unhinged he is. I mean, he's not listening to anyone. He's literally a madman. And you know, you put nothing beyond him. He can do anything. He doesn't care. Because this is no longer about his people. It's no longer about Israel. It's no longer about Israel's security. It's no longer about the Palestinians or the Lebanese or the region. It's about him. His media is saying so. His officials are saying so. His security is saying so. You read all their articles. Even his media are saying so. This is turned into, it's all about Netanyahu and Netanyahu's survival at whatever cost, even if it means destroying Israel along the way. If he goes down, he's taking everybody down with him. That's what he's turned to.
I mean,
And you
in
still have
normal
and
times,
you still have, and yeah, and you still have the Americans, you know, saying yes, dear, yes, darling,
yeah.
whatever do you want, you know, what do you want?
If he was the leader of any other country, he would have been called now a dictator who is
Oh my
holding
God.
his country hostage. With him, we have been hearing
Mm,
all these reportages about
mm.
him and the regime change, responsibility to protect the no-fly zone, and all these things. Hala, last question to you, since you
I mean,
mentioned the.
just Kevork, just on that,
Mm.
look at how many sanctions they've slammed against Iran, and go
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to when these and why for doing one thing, and Iran has been paying for these sanctions for the last 20 something years, right?
Yes.
And this guy is committing literally war crimes in front of everyone, live on our screen. We're watching a genocide live, like it's some series. It's a saga. It's series. It's been going on for 10 months, and no one is budged. No one is
And
budged.
they were applauding him when he went to the
Yes,
United States. And this is the serious
yes.
situation that I wanted to ask you, because now we are headed to elections in the US. And with the endorsement of RFK to Trump, it seems that his team has become stronger and more convincing, at least for the American public. We have someone from the Democratic Party joining to the team of Trump. And it seems to me that a left Zionists and right Zionists, they found their perfect candidate now in Trump, and they are all pushing together for Trump in this case. Somebody, I think, said in the comments below previously that Jimmy Dore has endorsed Donald Trump. I didn't see that, but if he did, that would be very shameful, in my opinion. And do you see that the Trump administration would be worse in for the for the Palestinians, especially in allowing Netanyahu more, let's say, giving him more space for expanding the war?
Um, Look, I've always felt that whatever else one thinks about Trump, that he was not someone who was necessarily interested in wars. He's more interested in money, economy, and his internal, mega, make America great again, so to speak, right? However, this is a man that did what no other leader dared do in the past, when he transferred the American embassy
Sure, sir.
to Jerusalem. And when he actually, again, against the UN resolution, allowed for the Golan Heights to be, to be seen as part of Israel's annexation, or whatever it is, he has already made statements to the effect that he supports Israel. That he has made so many statements recently that Israel's security does come first. Israel, 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 Israel. Now, he may not send his ships down the road, but he will not be supporting Israel, and he will go out of his way to make sure that Israel receives what it needs. It doesn't have to be in troops, because again, all these assets they brought to the region, how much is it going to cost them? For how long? I mean, yes, they print money over there, but how much of this is going to be a drain on the economy? And there's one thing Trump hates: draining his economy, somebody else taking his money, what he calls
Yes.
his money, meaning the American money. So he may not send the troops, he may not send this unless there's a serious threat, but he will definitely continue to support Israel. He will definitely support it. He will not be doing any, he will not be slamming any resolutions again. He will not take any penalties against it, okay? He will protect it, defend it as much as it can, and make sure that Israel continues.
Yes.
So I don't see, personally, like we, you know, this has happened on every election in the Middle East when we say, you know, who do you prefer? For us, when it's the United States, they're all the same as far as this region is concerned. It's never about this region. It's about their own interest and Israel's interest. These come first, not us.
Guys, thank you so much for your comments, telling me that Jimmy Dore didn't endorse Trump. I didn't say that he did. Somebody said in the comments. That's why I asked you. Everybody was in shock now, telling me that no, he didn't endorse. I'm not saying that he did. I'm just asking you if he did. And apparently his followers say, no, Hala, what a beautiful conversation with you. It's important to shed light on what's happening in West Asia, especially where we come from a professional point of view, but also from a place where you are indigenous to it, and also you face its daily livelihood, hardships, and also all these wars and destructions happening there. Just one thing before we end up, guys. The X account of Hala is in the description below. Follow her because she daily posts about what's happening between Lebanon, Palestine, Israel, Gaza, and all these difficult dynamics in the region. And also, I have put the links of her books in the description below. You can purchase it from the United States and from Germany. Her first book is The Flying Carpet of Small Miracles. I think this is about Iraq, right, Hala?
Yeah, actually, the first book I wrote was Hezbollah, and then the second book was about Iraq. Yeah.
Yes. So the first book is about Hezbollah inside the world's most secretive and deadly organization, Hezbollah, born with a vengeance. You can. This is in 1999, right, Hala? You published the book of Hezbollah. So for those who are interested, guys, you can find these links in the description below. And Hala, thank you so much for coming to the show. I really appreciate that you dedicated this time for me and for the audience.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Kevork, and thank you for everybody who watched. And see you around, I'm sure.
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's live streaming. I really appreciate you all that you tuned in on YouTube and on Rumble. If you like this content, hit the like button, subscribe on this YouTube channel. And if you like to support the independent work I'm doing, you can become a patron. The link is scrolling on the screen, patreon.com/Syriana Analysis. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday, 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern American Time. Peace be upon you, upon your families, and peace be upon you, Hala. Salam.
Salam alaikum.